Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the Parks and Community Services Committee of Thursday, September 15th to order. And the first thing that we have on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the August 18th meeting. I have one clarification on the very final paragraph. When we're addressing the heritage tree, it was the entire program, not just the ordinance versus the resolution deliberation. So if we could take out ordinance versus resolution deliberation and put program, which includes that part of it. Are there any?
I had just real small correction on the second page.
Okay.
Right at the very bottom, the first large paragraph under Ecola Creek Forest Reserve update. The phrase that says the group also saw a Beaver Bank in was actually a bank in DEN.
Okay.
And I don't speak clearly enough, so no. And then continuing on the next sentence where it says that my understanding is that the council will work with the city. I thought it probably should go ahead and say Watershed Council just to distinguish it from the council.
City council.
All knowing.
Okay, right, yeah.
That's all I've got.
Good point. Okay. Anything else? Amy, anything on the minutes?
No, not here.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with the changes.
And I second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have public comment. And do we have anyone that has asked to speak?
We had Graham Clegg request to speak, person, I believe.
Okay. So let's just make sure he's not here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to our first discussion item, which is the Ecola Creek Forest Reserve update, and we have Barry Sims via Zoom. And welcome, Barry.
Barry. Hi, everybody.
Do you have anything that you'd like to say before we start our discussion?
No, I think the draft hopefully speaks for itself and represents kind of the culmination of where we are to date. And so unless you would like me to walk the committee through the changes from the previous version, I'm happy just to turn it over and answer questions, but happy to walk us through it if that would be helpful.
Okay, what does the committee wish? Want to walk through or do you want to discuss?
I read it in quite some detail and compared it to the one we had previously. So I'm okay with just asking questions and discussing it. But if somebody would rather walk through it, that's fine.
I'm fine with not walking through it.
Everybody okay with not walking? Okay, so let's go ahead and entertain questions.
So I'll start, Barry, if that's okay. So it looked to me like one of the big things that happened is that we've struck out the language in the prior document that talked about fire being kind of an unlikely danger. And we've now switched over to a lot of good verbiage about what we've learned in the last 2 years, that we are actually under some risk of fire. And then there's a fair amount of, I think, good detail about the 3 road segments that, that we're now planning to keep in place, and it even goes into some cost estimates of what it's going to take to put them into the kind of shape that the city wants. Did I just go, that's about 3 pages worth of stuff. Did I miss anything critical in that part of it, Barry, that you think we should
No,
understand?
I think you've captured it. You just walked us through the key, the major changes there. Thank you for summarizing that.
What I do.
No, and I think the fact that I think we've properly addressed the fire danger.
I think so too.
That's something that it's in the original plan. We didn't have any idea that it would be a factor.
Yeah.
Do you have other?
No, well, I was just gonna talk about, I mean, just maybe for all of us, it's in addition to the roads, there was also some language around alder thinning and conifer thinning that I think in the prior version, we recognize that temporarily increased the fire risk. It seems like that's been maybe magnified a little bit. It still increases the fire risk, but it's probably much more unlikely that we should do something like that. If I got that correct.
Yeah, I think so. Left from us. Did you have any?
No, I wouldn't have somebody else to chime in.
Okay.
Let's go next. Betty?
Well, I was just on so we are in the part where management objectives,
Can you?
which is page 6.
Okay.
Really in the beginning,
Before management, so before page 6.
right? It's this introduction, and then the next page is management objectives.
Right, that's page,
6, yeah. And you just go down to number 4,
okay.
community involvement with forest reserves. Facilitate opportunities for education. And I just wanted to hit on that, highlight that, because we are about to embark on signage for the park, the reserve, and I just wanted to emphasize that we don't do much for public education, and that the signage could be a very step in that direction. So I just wanted to put that in there. And
So
any
Betty,
other
can I ask
ideas?
a question? Would add something. Facilitate opportunity. Via proper signage.
That would be great, because I don't think we're gonna do guided tours. I don't,
Have done in the past.
we have, okay,
Yes, some
okay.
during the 12 days of birth.
I just felt that number 4 was kind of neglected, because all these others we've been working on habitat, all the
Right.
other things, but we've kind of neglected the educational part. So I would like to focus on that a little bit. How do we see that? Because I feel like it's a super sacred space.
Right.
And I'm not sure people know that when they just walk up in there, they just think it's a forest.
Right.
And so I thought, well, we need to tell them or make sure they understand what we're doing and why it's so special. That maybe that would discourage the electric bikes and the kind of off-road things that might be happening. So however we see that expanding, I'd like to expand the educational part.
Do we need to expand it in the draft, or do we just need to expand it in the committee? I mean, like, make that one our goal.
Right.
Yeah, I think just in our committee, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah,
so leave the verbiage as it is and then really emphasize that we want to work on something that,
yes, if that's an
okay,
agreement.
we're okay with it. Okay.
And then I had some other questions going down to the actions. You keep going down action 17. Oh, it's on page 13. Okay, so yes, action 17, there's another educational reference and the status is unclear, so I think we could, I don't know what that was in there for education on fishing. I'm not sure if
It was to have the proper signage for when
okay.
it's okay to fish.
So there we go. So I'll just, so that it would be part of the signage.
Right.
And then if you go to 19, I thought we were discouraging that loop trail.
Discouraging in terms of calling it a loop trail or?
Yes. I mean,
We changed it to footpath a year ago, 2 years ago. We started calling it footpath instead of loop trail because the loop requires a wading across the West Fork.
Okay.
So, so if people if they misunderstood and let's do a loop and then they have to take their shoes off, they get bummed out, I guess. I don't know. But
it says including a footbridge. Have we put in a footbridge?
a long time ago,
Okay,
we built the trail and included a bridge over the, well, we call it the Witch Maze Creek, but that's an informal name.
It's about this high off the ground, so
Okay.
it's not really a
okay,
bridge.
Yeah.
okay. So I don't know if we want to keep that loop trail language in there or,
You can change, you could make it a footpath.
Yeah, that would be good.
That'd be a good.
Barry, you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, to make that change. So I'm just making a note here that I'll change that to just pedestrian footpath.
Yep. Good.
and then number 20, I thought we decided not to do a restroom up there.
But we haven't had a formal
Study.
Is the issue. So,
But wouldn't that encourage people to go?
yeah, I'm just saying that the action 20, it's not been done. We haven't done a study,
Oh, I,
Study hasn't been done, but
but I
do it right now. No bathroom. There, it's over.
If the committee feels that, they've kind of taken up that issue and made a decision to not recommend a public restroom, then we could include language to that effect here to kind of put that issue aside if you'd like.
yeah, I think
Yes.
we all would like that. Everybody okay with that?
yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so I'll add a sentence there.
Les, you look like you're gonna say something.
Well, I'm 100% in concurrence. But I learned not that long ago that there actually is at least some planning in place to build another emergency cache site by the water treatment facility. And I just wonder if we wanted to think about it in terms of if there's already going to be something up there, does that make a difference in what we would want to do?
It would be a holding tank only, no septic, no nothing. It would just be for emergency use only, a holding tank.
Yeah, I mean,
So we
It would only be,
we wouldn't want
it
to.
would only be opened up if we needed to hold sewage.
And that's fine. I would say, I think it'd be a bad thing to have a public restroom up there, but I thought it would be worth asking Trevor
Okay.
a little more
Yeah, just
information
the holding
about it.
tank, if we went that route, but we already got a holding tank, so yeah.
Okay. Then I think we do concur.
Okay, so we would have a sentence there that there are no plans to provide a public restroom. Is that okay? Percent? Okay,
and one more, actually, action 15,
Same thing.
same thing, right? Okay.
oh, yeah. So maybe it's on action 15, just that same type of sentence after this has not been done.
I could say something like, while a formal study hasn't been completed, the committee has come to the agreement that additional parking is not necessary or desired at this time, or something along those lines.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, that's all.
That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. Amy, we're gonna give you a turn. Do you have any?
Hi there.
Hi.
I don't. I'm just listening to everybody's input and I don't have anything to add.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So the question I had is about the roads that need to be kind of fixed
Mhm.
for fire. How likely or how soon do you think that could happen?
It would,
Be or Road C or,
yeah, we would be in communications with Greenwood. Time it when they're up on their road system doing road work when equipment's on site. And talk with them and schedule the maintenance that needs to be done on our section. So I couldn't give you a timetable. It would all depend on when they're up there doing work, performing work in their world.
Okay.
But that conversation will start here soon.
perfect.
Trevor, won't it also depend on the city budgeting for that?
Of course,
Yeah.
but the conversations can get started about timing and pricing and stuff like that, and then we can budget for it accordingly.
Could,
Anything else, Stacy?
That was
Okay.
so I did notice one of the things that, Barry, that you'd updated costing for a number of the different actions. Is that costing sufficient for the city to start planning?
It's a good starting point, for
I
sure.
mean, I didn't know how much detail was behind them really, if that was going to work or not.
The answer is not a lot of detail. Those are kind of ballpark estimates, and
Okay.
I almost hesitated to provide them just because there's so much devil in the details. But just to give a sense of the magnitude possibly of some of these projects, but once the city decides to move forward, there'll definitely need to be more cost estimating going on to figure out what it's actually going to cost. So.
Okay.
The estimated is the important.
Right. They all went up and I thought that was probably very reasonable.
Anita,
I think any of the questions that I may have had have already been addressed, so.
Great.
At this time, I'm
okay.
satisfied. Yeah.
Barry, any parting words?
Yeah, I would just say, and I'm looking at action number 21, the entry kiosk, and that was installed, and I'm not remembering what kind of language is on that kiosk, but with reference to the earlier comment about signage, there are some great examples of natural areas out there in our region that have done a really good job with signage to just kind of educate visitors about, why the property is there and what the rules are. And so if the committee feels like some additional signage or updating the signage might be useful, be good to look at some of those examples, and maybe you might end up, hiring a firm that does that kind of public communications to design something. It's just a suggestion. I know Metro has a lot of really good signs. They have for example, they have a no dogs policy. And so one of the first things you see when you walk onto a Metro property is why no dogs? And then they explain, and they do a good job. So there's some good examples out there. I'd just throw that out there.
So we have two people on our committee that are going to work on revising the signs. That's Amy and Betty. And before, we had done some research with a previous committee member who's no longer on the committee. So Betty and Amy, thank you. You guys have asked to step up and work on those signs. So we will definitely be, that'll be an ongoing process.
And I'd love it if I could contact you, Barry, after and just talk about some of the places that you're mentioning, Metro
Sure.
and others. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, Betty and I have chatted a little bit on the side, and we have yet to meet formally to talk about this in more detail, but I look forward to exploring some options and potentially working with some local artists if we could to introduce some of their work on the sign to make it feel really special. But I need to do a little more research and hopefully present some ideas with Betty on a future meeting.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Okay, anything else, Barry?
I guess the last thing I would just say is that the projects that are sort of mentioned here, they're all fairly open-ended, kind of some ballpark estimates. It's possible that, you know, some plans like to have a little more detail there, but I think that gives you more flexibility going forward as a committee to feel like you're not bound to some technical specs that weren't really fully vetted. So I hope that works well for you to have things fairly loose. And if you need more detail as we go forward, I'm sure we can develop it. So that's all.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Barry, for your time, your picks.
And our field trips.
Fun.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Shall I wait to see if there's any other recommended changes from as a result of your meeting, or should I just go ahead and make the changes we discussed?
I think we're probably ready to make a motion.
Yeah, the one thing, since Graham has joined us, I'm not sure what he's going to speak to us about, but there are 6 and 7, excuse me, have to do with beaver forage and beaver efforts, and I didn't know if that was
Okay, if
the
it's,
subject of his.
if it's okay with Eddie, I think we'll, before we finish our discussion on the reserve, and Barry, if you could stay with us, we'll go ahead and bump you up. So if you want to come on up and.
Hey, Amy, let me know if you can see what I'm there, okay?
Oh, you have to say, okay.
All right.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, can you see that?
Yes, I
Amy?
can. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for allowing me to be at your meeting today. For those of you who haven't met yet, my name is Graham Clagg, and I'm the Executive Director for the North Coast Watershed Association. And so we are your local watershed council representation here, working, very much directly with OWEB to come up with restoration and enhancement opportunities all throughout the watershed. But really, I like to say I'm a public interest consultant at your service. We're understanding really what are some of the upgrades that we can make to our watershed to preserve, restore, or enhance said resources that really built this area. So we have been working on with Les and other members of the Coastal Council. I've been working on a beaver habitat assessment for the watershed. And so prior to my arrival here, there was some work done to actually look and try and figure out what was the potential to restore beaver forage in the watershed, or the potential of the watershed to hold beaver, because we've been doing some field work and trips, and I've been doing some data collection out there, of which is in this story map that I've shared with the group that I encourage you all to look at more. Basically talking about what is the potential and where would we focus in some of these areas to meet these, action items of the stewardship plan. So there's just a lot of good stuff. If you want to scroll down there there's a meeting recorded that we've had, but this is kind of the major output that we've had so far. And you can see those areas in darker green are areas that have more potential to hold beaver. Now, we've been working with Cascade Environmental Group through an OWEB technical assistance grant to actually come up with this model based on some GIS work, mainly looking at the kind of wide valleys and low gradient systems that would really support beaver and their ability to dam build in those areas.
Graham, can I ask you just quick on your map? Are we to look at the color shading on the creeks themselves, or the green square areas that show up?
Yeah, so the green square, that's the forest reserve area. So that's just.
We're looking at the color coding on the water.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you can see in the greener, darker green it is, the better potentially you have to hold beaver in there. So, I'm interested in working with Barry now that I've had a chance to introduce myself more about, trying to figure out what is the areas that we possibly could do a restoration project. So I just wanted to be here today to say that, we're interested in trying to move forward with an actual restoration grant now that we've done this analysis and have identified some of those key areas in the watershed where, you walk up to and there are beaver there, but really their browse is very limited. In these systems, we typically have, lots of willow, lots of these kind of early sural environments that beaver really utilize. But because there isn't a lot of that willow because of some of the historic forest practices and not, replanting those areas in anything, and then they all become alder, that has really limited their browse. So they're up there, but they're really making a meager means, and that's where we want to work to promote that, because this story map's great as well, because it also goes into pointing out how coho and beaver and salmon in general are just very integrally linked. I hear a lot of concerns about fire. Well, having beaver on the landscape can help really, push out more water into the floodplain, which can help with fire danger in some areas as well. But as you think about these, road buildings in the future, mechanized equipment moving around, that's all where, we could possibly partner and come in with, equipment to do some of this restoration work, but timing is really the key. And so I really wanted to just get on the committee's radar and know that we're doing a lot of this good work out in the watershed, but we also, need to work with the resources that are available to get some of the grants that we need. And also we're a resource for interpretive signage. We have another grant on the North Clatskanie right now where we're doing a fish passage project for lamprey, and I'm doing an interpretive sign for that. So there's opportunities within the OWEB grant funding even to apply for some monies to do some of that. And so I'm an artist as well, and I love to communicate ecology through that. So anyway, but yeah, if you just want to scroll down, I'll just point out one or two more things. This is just a map for you all to, check out and see what we've seen. These are just some examples of, if you want to click that bank beaver den, you can see an example of, let's see, little dope down. You'll see down a little more. You were almost there. Yeah, right there. So there's an example of where, we definitely know we have beaver occupancy. The image below is a picture of one of our coastal council members, Scott Recate, who was actually holding there a blackberry cane next to a beaver den, where you can see, because there's such low browse material, they're actually browsing on the blackberry. So what we've really identified, and what Les and I were out collecting data on, was where are blackberry areas that potentially we could remove and then plant willow within. There's a lot of cedar caging up there that we could utilize as caging those areas while the willow is establishing itself. So we're in the phase now of coming up with what are the recipe for a project that could occur now that we have an analysis and what OWEB really wanted to see. So anyway, that was my.
What about elk and willow? I've thought about that before, but do they like willow?
That's a good, I think really with elk, keeping, we need to cage the willow to give it a chance to establish itself, but really I think elk would push it over more so than anything. They don't, to my knowledge, they might browse a little bit, but the cedar are what I've.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Like so. So I'm here just to show my face and make sure you get to know me, and also know that I'd like to work with the Parks Committee just in the future to try and come up with some of these designs and make sure that we have our coastal council, but also getting a sense of how the governance here works so I can contribute. So, yay. Can I answer any other questions, or Les, did I miss anything from our time out there?
No, actually, I mean, I have kind of tried to
Maybe you should play that.
share.
This one?
The last one, actually. This one's a good one, just of example of, back to education and how can we talk about beaver on the landscape as a
Is this a commercially available video game?
This was actually a video developed by a PhD student who's doing a lot of work on the intersection of beaver and wildfire, and trying to, just create some good examples of.
That's great.
I like cool. But it's a very good tool, right? To showcase, you increase the floodplain, their forage is increased, and here comes the big bad fire.
That's great.
So yeah, so there's lots of opportunities. And I think, beaver are one of these creatures that really help us understand how the landscape is functioning. And so we really, our goal as a watershed association is to really try and be there to say, showcase what the value of these resources are on the landscape and how they really intersect with this whole arching song of cooperation that's going on out there that we can play a part in. So yeah. Thank you. Graham. Appreciate your time.
Barry, do you have any questions of Graham?
Graham, thank you. That was great. I'm really glad that you're involved, and what you presented there lines up, I think, with a lot of the thinking that went into the original stewardship plan.
Mhm.
And we've just been kind of needing, someone to kind of take the baton and move forward. So I'd be more than happy to work with you if you would like me to be involved in any of the planning for selecting sites and then the kind of the treatments that would need to occur. I think the main thing is you need enough sunlight to get the willows established. So there might be some alder that might need to be cut. And then I was just wondering if that storyboard that you just showed, is that available online? Is that something I could look at?
Yeah, if you actually just Google Cola Creek watershed beaver assessment, you'll find it. It was up on our website, but I'm doing some overhaul on it right now, so you can find it there. But I'm sure we can share this amongst the.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you right now, Barry.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, Barry, I'm glad you mentioned that because those are the exact things we were looking at, which is sunlight, right? So kind of our approach with this project has been, well, there's blackberries, so we know there's enough water and enough sun in those areas, at least for some willow, planting. The other thing, Barry, which I'm glad you also mentioned this, is possibly some alder release or some girdling of some of the alders that are on their way into the stream to help really also provide some softwood for the large wood placements that were done back in 2013, which are kind of over time reaching more maturity. So they actually could use some addition of large wood to kind of maintain their structure. So that's where, identifying some of those areas as well is what we've been doing. So yeah, I think that we'll sit down and have a nice little chat about what we've got and see where we can fit it into the plan. So
Great. Okay, thanks very much.
you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
So just a general comment, it has to do with beavers. I was online and I noticed that the town of London, England, is reintroducing beavers, much for the same reason that we are, or what we're desiring beavers. And so I have hopes that beavers will be making a comeback.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you guys want to talk about beaver reintroduction, I've learned a lot about that as well, which is a challenging topic. So
Okay, thanks. Okay, so do you think our committee is ready to move on and send this to city council?
Right.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to, would it be to send it on to the city council for approval
With revision.
with the revisions?
I second that.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Amy?
Hi.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
Everything and.
Thank you.
and,
I'll get that revised. I'll get that revised draft by the end of the week.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Again, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting too.
I got to run. Nice to see you
Yeah,
all.
right. Go while you got a chance. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the monthly report.
Morning. I don't have a very exciting report
Oh, come on.
this time of year. Mostly it's just landscape maintenance, irrigation, not so much mowing. All the hedges are done. Summer is rolling along, and I guess I could say that the flower baskets, often they're just about coming down this time of year, but this year they look pretty good. We didn't have the aphid problem. the rain and wind kind of beats them up, and that hasn't happened yet. So plus Joe's off this week, so I'm not going to take him down without her. Anyway, we're going to leave them up for as long as we can. Longer than usual. I cleaned a couple of, I got an email from somebody. I cleaned them. The Lewis and Clark Heritage Trail Association interpretive signs at Les Shirley. They were kind of almost hard to read, and so I used bleach and stuff. They look pretty good, but they are getting old. I just wanted to point out that they are not our signs. And there was even talk about adding one time when Dick Bash wanted to put those rocks at Nacoos. I don't know where that's at, but someday they're going to have to be replaced or,
Right.
But anyway, I cleaned them up so they look better than I thought they were gonna. So they're okay for now. Today's the day, this is the 15th of September. That's the target date for taking down the windscreens at the tennis courts. But with the weather being nicer than usual this time of year and people playing pickleball, I think I'm just gonna leave them up for a little while longer if nobody objects.
Kirk,
Yes, please won't.
question about the lights at the tennis court. Are those scheduled to turn on earlier now that it's getting dark
I don't know what the
there?
program is on the
I don't
lights.
think they're on timers, they're on sensors.
I thought you had to push a button to turn them on.
Okay.
Are they not coming on?
Well, no, there was just a comment to me that they questioned whether there was a timer or,
I think you'd manually push a button and turn them on for yourself.
I'm on.
okay.
And so, we've had problems with them for years, but last I know they were working.
Okay.
It's like holding the fence, you stick your hand through and hit it and,
Okay.
the garden club was busy at Tolovana Hall. That's their garden that you see there, and it's looks better now than it has in months. So I don't know who put a lot of effort into it, but it looks good. I'm heading to Tillamook Ford to pick up my Parks truck tomorrow. It's been gone for like 6 weeks, but we got a new engine. It's coming back. I helped the boys take the semaphores off the beach yesterday. That's kind of an indication of the end of summer when the semaphores come out and here come the windscreens and stuff like that. The purple martins have gone back to the Amazon. So I suppose I should talk to Jen about make a plan.
Yeah.
Is your group still involved in
Yes.
cleaning this? I'll talk to you maybe sometime pretty soon. Okay, we'll take care of that.
Okay.
A pretty successful purple martin season,
Very much so.
but this is the time they came on time, left on time, had a whole bunch of babies. So that's about all I got. Answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Kirk?
Kurt, who did you say owned the Lewis and Clark?
Lewis and from what I understand, is the Oregon chapter of the Lewis and Clark Heritage Trail Association or Foundation Association,
I think it's associated.
which is a nationwide group with chapters in each state, and they fostered the Lewis and Clark, the history of Lewis and Clark, and they're the guys who put those stone monuments in at Nacoos. Dick Bash was actually an advisor. He's part of the association, I think, representing the local tribe. I forget when I forget when those things showed up at Les Shirley, about, more than 20 years ago. When one day they were there.
Should we make an effort to reach out and talk to them about the signs, just kind of get on their radar? Is that appropriate?
Well, staff could do that if we think we should. I don't know.
Everything going on at the new grade school site, maybe once, because I'm sure there's gonna be signage at the new grade school at some point. Maybe we tackle both sides of the creek at that point.
I thought they wanted to put a third sign over there,
Point. And then I
almost in conjunction with those monuments at Nacoos, but
There's gonna be a lot of activity.
Right, yeah, and you're right.
Maybe we just tap into that for the other side of the creek.
think we keep it on our radar.
Okay.
Make sure that it gets
And I'll have it on my radar when I have discussions about the school and stuff, so.
good. Okay, any other questions for Kirk? Thank you.
yep.
Kirk.
Thanks, Kirk.
Agenda, we have the heritage. We went to the city session on Tuesday. Thanks for everyone joining us. Thanks. Following me out. And I think they're leaning more towards a resolution rather than an ordinance. And if we are okay with that, I think that there were a couple suggestions on the application, but I think we worked our way through keeping the application as it we presented it. And so the next step in this program is to send this on to city council for that.
So we just changed the language on page 67. Instead of ordinance, we say resolution.
It's going to be a resolution, right? And I'm sure the city attorney will.
Yeah, she's gonna
write up something on that. I'm gonna do that works. Motion to send that to city council as a resolution. The heritage program with a resolution.
I'll make a motion to send the Heritage Tree Program to the city. Resolution.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Great. Hey, thanks again to everyone for all their on that.
Thanks for everyone showing up and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help.
everything. That was,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll know when for sure what date it's on the agenda. I think it's going to be October, but you know, we'll wait and see and I'll make sure everybody knows. So good job. Okay, 12 days of Earth Day. I think based on our discussions from last month, I think we're ready to, I mean, that the handbook is next year. We'll start planning for that in January, at our January meeting. And I think we have a good guest speaker for
No,
12 days on beaver restoration.
Graham, you're,
So start working on your act.
I just need to get your information so I can call you up.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything else on 12 days?
I would like to put a proposal forward of expanding the street fair to have it to really expand it, have it be different booths that have activities, hands-on activities, if COVID permits. For instance, one booth could be creating a worm bin. One booth could, or you could be in the same booth, but different activities that would help us, help people become more sustainable. So if that happens, I'd volunteer to be in charge of it. And I've actually done this before, so I kind of know what I'm getting into, but it's a lot of fun. It involves people. They don't just walk by. So anyway, I'd just like to make that proposal and see what everybody's thinking about that.
Just got one comment. Are you talking about expanding the actual closure of the street or just expanding the layout on the existing?
Well, we wouldn't probably need more. Well, it depends on how many booths we get this next year. Last year, we only had what? Six, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But
We've
probably,
got to take the park into consideration. Maybe we move it over to the park. You know, if it expands much more than taking up one block, city
Yeah.
block.
And I think right now, we're in September and when we plan it in January, we're going to know a lot more about,
Of course.
you know, what's going on with
yeah,
COVID and things. And hopefully we can expand it. It sounds great.
that'd be
We
good.
have had interactive booths before. Where, you know, there was lots of activities going on, people were getting things to take with
Yeah,
them
yeah.
to continue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I agree. That's a really good idea. I would say from my experience going last year, the most successful one for our family and kids was the aquarium because it was hands-on and interactive. So it would be lovely to see more of that.
Yep.
Okay, good.
And I would support in your efforts, Betty, whatever it takes.
Thank you, honey. Thank you. Okay,
We need to start before December then? I mean,
Well, I'm-
January then?
yes, I could start sending out ideas and see how you feel about them. I've already,
Keep it within the committee and then in the January meeting actually start, to,
okay,
figure out the dates at the actual planning. Okay, sounds good.
okay.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Okay, next we have the community grant ceremony and that's coming up rapidly. It's Thursday, September 29th. I do have some flyers that if you would like to distribute them around the community after the meeting. It starts at 6 and we normally set up about 5 o'clock. So it's long since we've had it, I've forgotten.
Did it start earlier than that?
Well, I know that the city brings down tables usually.
Have we done that in the past?
Chamber has table.
Chamber has table.
Okay, so what am I thinking?
I think we discussed, I think Bruce mentioned cupcakes and lemonade.
Right, it's a dessert. It's not a potluck because we can't have a pot.
City still supply, you guys still want that?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So as we get closer to this, please let me know how many cupcakes and, or
What have we had in the past? 50 people? 35?
probably closer to 50. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. So maybe a cupcake per person, so maybe 6 dozen.
what, cupcakes or a cake or, I mean,
Well, I think Jen had some ideas, and when we discussed it about having the dessert, she said, I think I'll, if it's okay with everyone, I'll meet with Jen and get all those details down. But what we do need is people to help us set up. And I think if we can have committee members be there by 5 o'clock, and we're going to set up the tables and chairs, and then we should be ready. I had reminded the city council because we like them to be there, and Sam usually presents the certificates with me. We had originally planned to send out or to hand out the checks at the ceremony, but staff transition that got lost in translation or transition, and so the people have received their checks already.
Oh,
And but hopefully they've also been invited to the presentation to give a 3-minute presentation on their fund, and then we'll certificate.
great.
And then next year we'll make sure that we have definitely that the staff knows not to send the checks out until we actually have the ceremony, just to encourage people to come.
Okay.
And then if they don't show up, we can reallocate. No.
That's right.
No, just kidding. Okay, so at the end of the meeting, if you want to, if you have some places to put flyers, and get some of those. So 5 o'clock on the 29th, meet at
Thursday.
Thursday, meet at the chamber. Yeah. And I cannot, yeah, okay, great. Amy, on board?
I'm on board. I'm putting it on my calendar right now.
Okay, sounds perfect. Okay, thanks, everyone. And then I will talk to Jen and get the desserts planned. Okay, and then next on the agenda, we have the Little Free Library. Do you want to?
Apologize for not being able to do this using class.
Patient's important.
Yes. I don't know if you all had a chance to, that was in the packet. I thought she did a great job with that.
Yeah.
And I know Kirk, you said you, at the last meeting, you said you had some thoughts about a Little Free Library at Les Shirley.
I read all the information that Mindy provided. It's kind of fun. my thought, I'm a fan, I'm familiar with the program. My thought was all about location. We have an automatic irrigation system that pops up and those things just blast water. They don't hit everywhere. So her 3 suggested locations, one at the west entrance, be off of Laurel, I guess. Laurel. Arch. That little corner has got a phone pad, a fire hydrant, a stop sign. What I'm trying to say is that we have to be able to have 6 feet between these man-made structures for mowing purposes. Anyway, and back on the trail to the south of the park, which is off the road, that's kind of a cool area back there, but I don't think it's going to get the attention it would near the 5th Street sidewalk. And her 3rd location was somewhere in proximity to the bus stop. The bus stop hasn't been used for over a year. It's off the stops of the regular Seaside Sunset Empire Transportation District schedule. It's only been used the last few years for the summertime Cannon Beach shuttle because their schedule has changed. The bus stop is owned by and built by the city. Hopefully it'll get used again someday as a bus stop, but I think that the little free library could be attached to the bus stop. There's 5 6x6 posts that hold it up. You wouldn't need to put a new post in the ground. It doesn't affect any kind of maintenance. You could even put the little free library inside the bus stop.
Protected.
And you could sit down and have a reading. It's the only little free library with an enclosed reading room, And even if it was inside, straight back, it wouldn't affect the use of that structure as a bus stop. Maybe if it's inside, it wouldn't be as visible from the sidewalk. I don't know. It could be outside facing the sidewalk, or it could be facing west towards the public restroom. But anyway, I think you have these 5 6x6s that are available to me to have it be mounted on without digging a hole or putting in a 4x4 that I'm going to weed eat around and chew up eventually. And just a thought. I mean, and it'll be kind of nice to use that bus stop for something besides nothing. I mean,
You put it on the north side of one of those, 6x6 posts.
exactly. Either one of them,
You enter the park,
you would see it.
foot or by vehicle, you're gonna see it.
It would be facing, it could be facing the 5th Street sidewalk, but you couldn't miss it if you,
Kind of protect it from the winds also on the, if it's placed on the north side.
and the sprinklers don't hit the bus stop.
Great.
But, and because Mindy writes about her, someone's gonna build it, but she wanted the Parks Committee to help install it with a post or something, but I don't know. But I'm not against the, I'm kind of support the whole concept. Of course, I could throw up the question, depending on what color it is or what kind of siding or what kind of roof. Does it have to go to DRB? Is it a major modification or a minor modification?
Once the design is made, to have that conversation, if it's a minor or major.
I'm thinking if it's attached to the bus stop, which has already been DRB approved,
Yeah.
it would be a minor modification.
Yeah.
If it's out in the middle of the park standing by itself, someone might think it's a major modification. So you want to always dodge DRB, right, if you can. So
But I'll,
again, it's a reason to use the bus stop, I think.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't somebody already have one of these library things?
At the church.
The church.
No, I'm talking about on North Larch.
Really?
People park to walk to the creek. Isn't there a resident there that has,
On North Larch?
You mean by the kids' beach?
just adjacent to Les Shirley Park? I thought there was a resident out there that
I'm not,
drive down there and take a look, but
Okay.
I don't think so.
I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so why don't, before our next meeting, everyone take a trip down to Les Shirley, look at the bus stop. I worried a little bit about the irrigation system.
We want to avoid it because it's going to get blasted. I mean, it's one thing to be able to withstand the rain.
Right.
But the irrigation system, that's not real natural rain.
So I assume the committee all thinks this is a worthwhile endeavor. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Nita?
Well, I have questions, just,
Okay.
just looking at the program and the founder, Todd Bowl, and just the whole premise of it, his mother was a librarian, and so he built the first little library.
Mhm.
And it was for children in communities that were maybe disadvantaged. And so it was trying to encourage reading.
Right.
And so that's where I got to some questions about, what books are going to be in this little library in a park where people come for the day. Are they going to leave a book? I mean, I love the program. And then I'm concerned about, the city's liability, if it's vandalized, who's going to repair it? Who really is going to, monitor the books? Are we going to get groups that, I have religious, books that I want to put in the city park now, or political books that I want to put in the park. So those are just some questions that came up in looking at, the initial starting of this library. And then I thought about, Haystack Heights and Elk Creek Apartments, and that those would be good areas, and that it's a nonprofit, and whether, they could come before the committee for the community grants and get some monies to put little libraries in these neighborhoods that would be more geared towards the kids that live here, and then just what titles. And then, Mindy did give an excellent presentation. But when she got to the part, if in a year it doesn't work, then, so then that made me think, well, what's going to make it not work? Which is where I got to all these other questions. So those are just some thoughts that I have.
Okay.
Although I support the idea, I just am not sure that the city is really a place that wants to take that on, other than maybe putting them in neighborhoods that would benefit the kids, because that's originally what this is for kids to read.
Sounds like this person's taking it on. We're just providing the space. If it doesn't work, out it goes, but Mindy would be responsible for maintaining.
And she's offered,
Said she would.
offered to do that.
And
Yeah.
she specifically stated like there would be no religious materials, no.
Right.
So she would be the one going through.
Right. So that's,
There was appropriate.
so that's,
Well,
what other titles might she not like?
that could,
I'm sure she's very fair, and she's,
She's an author. so-
right, so that's where her book's
She's
gonna,
also a teacher, so she's aware of the band book.
Yeah, that-
all that good stuff.
right.
Which is,
makes me think of
Is
who's
somebody gonna, yeah,
Right.
exactly. That someone's gonna say, well, why isn't this book allowed in here? Because it's all subjective.
I think if we encounter that, then we'll start the discussion of, is this program going to work or is it not going to work?
Mhm.
If it gets vandalized, if it gets ripped off the post,
yeah, we'll give it up.
then we got to give it up.
Yeah, because it can't be, it's not a city, it's in city property, but it's not
Right.
a city program.
Right, we're just giving permission to, right, Trevor, permission to use our property for this positive, nonprofit,
Right, so, but that's where
educational.
else comes before us and says, well, I just want to put up a little free library that has political information, I'm going to maintain it. So that's where I'm just wondering that.
Is the precedence bad?
Into a slippery slope of, well, I just want to put this on city property and I'll maintain it, if we're going to be faced with that.
So would you be willing to use this program as a trial and see how?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
But
think
I just wanted to voice some of those
Yep.
questions and
Yep.
things that we might.
How do they work, like the free libraries in Portland? Is it just an individual homeowner that decides to put something up, or is that overseen by the city? Does anybody
I know
know?
I know the one that I can think of in town, the little free library by the church. That one's maintained by Kat.
Right.
And Les,
Right.
you and Lynn, your wife, has helped a lot with that.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts about?
Well, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about the background. I do know that and Cat's affiliated with the church, so basically the church takes care of and maintains that site. It's right up here on that way on the Hemlock. I do know that they had to get city permission to place it. As far as that, I really don't know that much more about it. I don't.
And I haven't heard of issues that they have had with this.
The issues that I'm aware of really haven't been vandalism. They've simply been, these little boxes are really hard to keep the moisture out of, and moisture is a problem for books. So
Yeah.
I was kind of excited with the notion of putting it underneath the books
Yeah.
bus stop. I never considered that. But no, I think it's been a pretty active program. Everybody that I know of seems to think it's been pretty effective.
And I'd love to drive down Hemlock and see little kids looking at the books, you know, in there, and you see it quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what Mindy's, so she's focusing more books that geared towards children? They're an age group she's thinking,
I haven't gone that far with her.
okay.
She does make a comment in her, you know, she kind of addresses, at least to a little bit of extent, what would be inside the free library, children's books for all ages, trade paperbacks, and she talks about that, inspirational books like Chicken Soup for the Soul, magazines in good condition. So she's really hasn't narrowed her scope very much. And I think the program is, when you take a book, you're supposed to put a book in. Isn't that kind of the way it's structured? I know it's not the way it works down here. The books go out, but they don't ever get them. So it's an ongoing practice, you know, process to keep getting books.
Doesn't Kat or Lynn?
But my wife has bought a lot of children's books and donated to go into that library.
At the church?
At the church, yeah.
Has anyone talked to them about some of the issues that they've encountered with? Does somebody want to talk to the church?
Yeah, I'd say before the next meeting, a
Yeah,
couple things.
then you can come with that information of some of the trials and errors that they've learned from.
So Mindy and Lynn and Kat Wolin sat down
Oh, that's
last
right.
month
Okay.
and had I think a 3-hour discussion about what Kat has found with the little free library at the church.
Okay.
So Mindy is, she understands a lot more what they've gone through. We can ask either Kat to come or.
Yeah, or, you know, or my wife would be happy to come and discuss it. I think they did talk about books for some period within that 3 hours of fun and games at the coffee shop, but.
I think there's also one on a house on East Monroe, I believe it is. And it's, I think I would say more religious. They have dinosaurs in their yards at certain times. It's a blue house.
Always one,
But it's-
I think it's. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I have an idea. I don't know if somebody's already mentioned this. Sorry if you have. What if we partnered with the library to have it kind of have a neutral figure sort of partnering to oversee it, so it's not slanted in any particular direction, if that was a concern?
This is just my, let's give it a try and let's see what happens with it.
Sure.
If push comes to
Trying to
shove,
anticipate problem, just, yeah,
they'll involve more and more people, but
yeah,
that's just my thoughts on it.
I would agree.
So I would say before the next meeting, all of us make a site visit individually to the bus shelter at Les Shirley. Maybe have Mindy answer some of the concerns that were presented at the meeting today, and then discuss it further at our next meeting.
Do you want us to ask Lynn if will you guys be in town next month?
Yeah, we'll be here for.
Okay, so we could invite Lynn to give it just a.
I know that she was willing to, she just simply didn't want to step on Mindy's. Yeah, I mean, it was her program, not, but if.
Is Mindy gonna make this thing or?
Yeah, she's gonna have it made. Somebody's volunteered to have it made.
So if she could give me a drawing of it or something.
Yeah.
Cause then that's what I'll have to take and see if Jeff Adams is, if that has to go to DRB.
Okay,
Hopefully it's cedar shakes, it kind of blends in with,
Yeah, she's
Cedar.
talking about neutral colors and.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I do like the bus stop as the location.
Oh, I know.
for it. Yeah,
Great idea.
that is.
A great idea, Kirk.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yeah.
once again.
Okay, well, that's gonna get it.
So anything else on the little.
And any signage that's gonna be there, I need to know
Right,
what it's gonna say and.
Yeah. yeah, so.
Yeah,
we'll
if
try
she's
to-
gonna register it with Little Free Library nonprofit.
The signage will be minimal.
A minimal signage, but I need to know what it's gonna say.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Stacy.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, last we have good of the order. I do have one item. Tree City USA application process is ready to start again, and it's due by December 15th. And so I will go ahead and start that process and something to the city. Tessa, you're going to have a lot of fun with that. Okay, guaranteed. Yeah. Anything else for good of the order?
I noticed that we didn't have a road tree report this month. Is that just because there were no trees applicants?
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be on the agenda though.
So last night I looked one more time at the agenda and thought, oh shoot, we have promised the committee that we would always have that on the
Yeah, because
agenda.
it's been on there
The
even with
words
0
on the
trees.
agenda, even if we don't have 0
Right.
trees, and then we can celebrate the
Right.
fact that we had no trees.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so we will, we'll.
Okay, so that was just a,
that
that was just a
my
oversight, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Guys are gonna, I received, sorry, Betty,
No,
just real quick. You're gonna have some fish counts in your packet next,
Great.
received just recently some information from the state for some fish counts.
We lost a tree that we planted on Kenai with the kids and, but I put it back in. I planted another one.
Okay, good, thanks.
I would like to, I mean, we always have the road tree, but I'd like to also have some kind of acknowledgement of the trees we do plant. And I think we should also, or would please also maybe make it an effort to like 50 trees a year that we plant, or some number that we have a goal, so that when we're doing our Tree City USA, it's not such a burden. We already have our counts up. I mean, I don't know how it would work, but I just think if we're Tree City USA, let's be planting trees and let's know how many we're planting. And
Yes.
We do.
We do.
we do know. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Anytime Kirk plants a tree, because it's dictated in the removal, it's documented.
Yeah, and that is.
Two or three every couple of years.
Yeah, and that's part of the Tree City USA application.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and maybe it would be good for me before we submit it to show everyone the application, so you see what the process is like.
They also ask how many trees were pruned in the city in a year.
Yeah.
That's always a wild guess.
Yeah. Oh, God, thank you.
And then one more thing, I requested that the tree ordinance be included in the packets. And my thought is that with the code audits taking place, is that the tree ordinance be updated to include some wording that protects and preserves trees, especially with the Heritage Tree Program coming in to effect, that somehow
Definitely.
include in the ordinance
Yeah.
ways to protect trees.
And that's definitely, yeah.
Okay, so that's not something that the Parks Committee that we're not looking at the tree ordinance.
No, we should too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where I'm
So-
hoping that it'll be
so
on the
let's-
agenda at some,
Next month's agenda that we take.
okay,
And with suggestions for the code audit.
okay, thank
Good.
you, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thanks very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, Amy.
Don't
Thank
forget
you.
to get your flyers.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Can I stop by later to pick up flyers?
Sure, I'll leave some for you at the front desk. How many would you like?
Maybe 5.
Okay, you got it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.